Hey guys, it's Nitro. So today I'm trying to show you my build that I used to beat honor mode solo, my first ever clear. It's a bit of a cheesy build because it's very tanky and it makes you nearly immortal and it lets you reflect a bunch of damage and just walk over your enemies while they cannot do almost anything to you. It's very silly if you die with this build, it's just really difficult too. So this might be an awkward scene, but essentially what happened was that my character was in the epilogue camp, and if you don't know, in the epilogue camp, you cannot respect your character at all or level him up. So I tried to respect my character with the external mod, and it just got her stuck at level 1, and she cannot get to level 2. It basically capped level 1 now. So yeah, we're gonna use Halston as a proxy just this time. That's the workaround I found. I tried a lot of stuff, trust me, it just didn't work. So we're gonna use Halston as a level up guide, and then I'll show you the items on this character. But yeah, it's essentially the same thing, don't worry. Anyways, let's get to leveling, and that will help us explain how the build works. Okay, so at level 1, we're going to take Sorcerer. In terms of cantrips, we can get Booming Blade, Light, Mage Hand, and Minor Illusion. No damage cantrips because we are not casting from Charisma. So Booming Blade is different because it uses an attack roll, so it only matters for your melee attacks. So it's a good one to take because wizards don't get this, but the damaging ones stay far from them. Spells, I'll take utility spells, I'll take shield, and I'll take featherfall. And then our ancestor, we're gonna be a draconic sorcerer. It's gonna be a white cold because this gives us armor of Agathis, which is really good because you can upcast it to level 6 or level 5. And this is the highest you can get in terms of reflection. It's the best reflection spell in the game. And with abjuration, we can get to keep it forever, basically, or almost forever. Ability wise, we go 8 strength, 16 dexterity for initiative, 14 constitution. Although you can dump constitution in this build, honestly, you don't take damage, so it's okay. I'm just gonna keep it for safety in case you don't have wards all the time, or you need to set them up sometimes. The rare case where they break through you. A 17 intelligence because we're gonna do hags here. 10 wisdom just to have no negative wisdom because it's good for saving throws. And charisma doesn't matter. Proficiencies, I would just take these two because it's nice for checks. Because you have no charisma, so having some plus ones in these are good. Level 2, we stick to sorcerer. We take another utility spell, which is going to be enhanced sleep. Really good for moving around. Honestly, insanely good spell. You can cast this before every battle to get a lot of movement with your jumps. And then meta magic, we're gonna get twinned, which gives us the ability to cast a spell that can target an additional target, which is not that insane unless you're running with a party. But the main thing is extended spell. This thing extends spells by twice their duration, but it's gonna be really important for this build. Show you later. Level 3, we're gonna move to wizard. And then here we're gonna pick some damaging cantrips. We're just gonna pick these three. No big reason, just they're nice. These two can be multiplied by wet, which is important because we're using wet a lot, so it's a good attack roll. This one is nice to blow things up. Spells is really relative, honestly. I'm just gonna pick a nice spread for this build. Remember though, you have shield from sorcerer already, so even though it says you don't have shield, that's just because it's from another class. You still have shield, so don't take shield twice. So I'm just gonna take this. This spell, Chromatic Orb, is gonna be the only spell that I think is required. Definitely take this one. I'll explain it later. But yeah, we're just gonna take Long Strider, Chromatic Orb, Magic Missile, Witch Bolt is good, Thunder Wave is okay, and then honestly, from all of these, I would take Expeditious Retreat for now. And again, prepared spells. Always prepare Chromatic Orbs. Long Strider is good. Witch Bolt and Magic Missile for now. Level 4, we get our subclass feature Abjuration, which gives us our Abjuration Ward, or Arcane Ward, which is the main feature of this build. This lets you get an ward every time you cast a spell, which protects you from damage, and it scales with your wizard level, so the more wizard levels you have, the more wards you can have, and the more wards you gain per spell cast. But in this particular build, it doesn't matter how many levels of wizard we have. We're just taking a lot of levels of wizard to get more spell slots to be able to cast spells. Again, these don't matter that much. Just take whatever you want, honestly. I'm going to take these two for now. And again, I would add Thunderwave at this point. Now at level 5, we are going to go back to Sorcerer, because we already have Abjuration. And this gives us another spell which is going to be utility based, so don't pick any damaging spells. I'm just going to pick Misty Step. And then here we get a massive power spike. We get Quicken spell, which lets us cast a spell with the bonus action for the cost of 3 sorcery points. So this is like extra attack for wizards, basically. It's really good. It gives you 2 attacks per turn. Then at level 6, we're going back to wizards. And now we're not going to swap from wizard. We're just going to be a wizard until the end of the game. So over here, just pick whatever utility spells you can find. I would say Knock is worth it. See Invisibility is nice. And I would add See Invisibility. Level 7, new cantrip. I'm going to take Bone Shield for the anti-heal. It's useful sometimes. And then 2 more level spell slots. Magic Weapon is good. And then I would take, for example, Invisibility if you are running low on invisibility potions. If not, you can just go for another damaging spell like Shatter. It's decent. And then from these ones, I would have Magic Weapon. For our first feat, we get Dual Wielder, which gives us 1 AC when you wield 2 weapons and lets us hold any 2 weapons that are light. So this will be important for a wizard because you can hold 2 staffs and get 2 buffs, or in this case, 2 weapons in general. Doesn't need to be staffs. Level 8, we get level 3 spell slots. Now, Counterspell is one of the best spells in the game, but it's counterintuitive, but we're not going to take it. Because taking Abjuration spells, casting Abjuration spells in this build is actually really bad. Because every time you cast an Abjuration spell, you are removing all of your wards. And I'll explain why later. So don't take Abjuration spells. The only exception is Shield, because Shield is a reaction spell. So it doesn't really proc. So Shield is fine, but again, we have Shield from Sorcerer, so we don't need it again. So take Lightning Bolt for wet damage and Haste for concentration. Extra action. And then I will probably remove Magic Weapon here. These 2 are really good. This one in here. Level 9, we get our subclass feature, Protected Ward, which is good if you are in a party. It's okay if you're solo, because you can use it on allies, such as a Night Song, or Isabel, more importantly. This lets you just project one of your wards to your friends, to your allies, once per turn as a reaction. So since you have infinite wards in this build, it's basically just a pretty ward for anyone. It's not a bad idea. Again, unless you want to use your reaction for shield, but you don't really need shield. So in terms of spells, I'm going to take Hypnotic Pattern for CC, and I'm going to take Remove Curse for utility because it's a nice spell. Remove curses sometimes. And I will take Shatter. I will take Magic Weapon back actually. Again, these are prepared all the time. You can take them whenever you need them. Level 10, we get level 4 spell slots, and these ones are very competitive. So we need Fire Shield and we need Ice Storm. Fire Shield Cold is going to be really good because it's basically like another source of reflection. When you cast Fire Shield, enemies that attack you will get damaged by 2d8 fire or 2d8 cold. Now the cold version is multiplied by water, so if you put water on enemies and then they hit you, they will get hit by 4d8 cold, which is really high. So it also stacks with Agathis, so this is a really good spell. It's one of the most important spells for this build. And because of that, we're gonna put it over here. We kind of want Ice Storm too. I think Witch Bolt at this point is kind of useless, so there we go. Level 11, we got our last feat, which is gonna be 2 intelligence. If you are Hags here, you would have 20 intelligence here. And then if you go to the Mirror of Loss in Act 3 and you manage to do the check, you would get 22 intelligence, ideally. And then we get another level 4, 2 more level 4 spell slots. From this particular list, I would take Greater Invis, it can be nice. And I would take Confusion, just for counter control, for CC. Confusion is really cool. At level 12, or final level, you get our level 5 spell slot, which is going to be Cone of Cold, and Conjure Elemental. I'm going to prepare these two. I'm just going to prepare Cone of Cold for now. Actually, I'll prepare these two. However, we want to reserve our level 5 and 6 spell slots for other things. But since we are also a sorcerer, we will get level 6 spell slots, so it's fine to use these. I would use these as more of a scroll, but it's nice to have because elementals are good allies. Okay, and now that we are max level, I'll explain how this build works. Just take off this armor because it's preventing me from spellcasting. So how this build works is you would get an Abjuration ward every time you cast a spell. You see we start with 2, that's because we were level 2 when we began, but anyway. So we want to get at least 3 stacks. So you ideally would do a level 6 Agathis, or level 5 if you don't want to do, if you want to save this spell slot for your strongest spell. But yeah, in Act 3 you will have a lot of sources of spell slots, like Marco Hesher and stuff, with Arcane Battery, so it's okay, just upcast this Agathis. And this will give us 30 temporary HP as well as 8 stacks because of our wizard levels. So now we have 8, but you just want to make sure you have more than 3. If you're in Act 1, get at least 3. And then when you have 3 stacks, you pick a Chromatic Orb, level 1, shoot it on the ground, not on yourself. Just target it next to you. And then press the extended spell slot toggle and go sit on the orb. You will see that your Arcane Wars will start doubling like crazy. So you see 14, 26, and it just keeps going. So after 1 orb, I have 50 stacks, which is already insane, because it's over the limit. The max limit of Abjuration normally is 20, we have 50 right now. So we can cast 1 again. And this time I'm casting an extended orb, which doubles it again. So now we stand on an extended orb with the extended on, and you see we have 98. And this just keeps going forever until you get like 1,000. So this means that you're gonna have infinite turns of this spell basically, as long as you don't cast any Abjuration spells. Because if I cast, for example, if I cast Agathis again, it will completely remove this. So don't cast any Abjuration spells once you have all your stacks active, unless you want to recast the Chromatic Orb to get your stacks back and you're out of Agathis. That's a fine use, but don't do it mid-battle because this is literally what's protecting you. So effectively we have 1,538 turns of minus 20 damage, which is insane. It's a lot of damage reduction. Stack this with elixirs of resistance or resistant items that grant you resistance, or stuff like Blade Ward, which we'll see later, and you're basically going to take almost no damage from enemies, and you're going to be reflecting all back. Other spells that work in this build, again, Fire Shield. It stacks with Agathis. It is an application spell, so it doesn't ruin your wars. Ideally, you would precast this before every fight, as high level as you can, but level 4 is fine. Now as you can see, we have Agathis, which will do 30 damage of cold damage back to enemies, and this will do 2 to 16 cold. And then you would multiply it by essentially putting a water bottle on the enemy, and then wetting the enemy, and then bait an opportunity attack, and they will take double, like 60 damage from Agathis, and then 32 damage from cold if it rolls really high. Other spells that work with this build are just every cold spell, every lightning spell. That's why we took Lightning Bolt, Cone of Cold, Ice Storm, because they get buffed by water. Ideally, you would want to break water with crossbows. And crossbows, that's what we're going to be showing with the item section. But yeah, the build is basically that. With this amount of arcane wards, you are immortal. You can scatter your spells as much as you want. No enemy will be able to do much damage to you. There are some enemies that can damage you, but they're very few and sparse. As long as you resist their damage type, like let's say you're fighting Ensor, obviously you want to use a lightning resistant elixir. He can still damage you with his crazy attack, but it will not kill you, it will just tickle you a bit. But most enemies cannot even hit you. But yeah, that's basically the build. I'm gonna show items that work with the build now on my main character. Okay, so in terms of items, I'm going to show them based on your progression. So in Act 1, you would be using end crossbows +1 from Daemon. These are useful because they give you a bonus action with damage, and wizards don't have many bonus actions in the beginning of the game, so a bonus action shot is pretty good. You can use these to break water bottles and then cast lightning or cold spells, or just go up to enemies and bait opportunity attacks, which will make them take Agathis damage. So they work really well with this build. In terms of rings, I would recommend Cruster's Ring for some movement, because we want to bait opportunity attacks. So movement is important to do this as much as possible. And then Caustic Band is just unbeatable, 2 damage to our melee attacks. Helmet wise, we have the Haze Helmet, which just gives us a more movement, which again is important for baiting opportunity attacks. In terms of robes, it really depends on what you want to do. The best robes in the early game are Infernal Robes, which give you 10 +1 AC, and they give you early Fire Shield Warm. While it's not the best Fire Shield, which is cold, this gives you a level 4 Fire Shield as early as Act 1, so it's really good. However, this thing also means that you need to kill Karlach, so it's up to you if you don't like that choice. But yeah, it gives you an insane 11 AC plus mage armor, and then you get a fire shield warm, and you also become resistant to fire. So yeah, it's just unbeatable. Other robes that work if you don't want to do the evil thing. Ice Spike robe is nice because it gives you a free cast of level 3 Agathis, which is good because you don't get level 3 Agathis until a few levels in. But it also gives you resistance to cold, so it's decent if you're facing enemies with cold damage. But they're a bit rare, honestly. Then we have the Protectory Wall Spark Wall. This one is also 11 AC, but this one needs to have lightning charges to be able to have the maximum AC. So only use this one if you're using Spell Sparkler or lightning charges generation. And finally, we have the Dark Justiciar Mail, which is probably one of the best armors too. It just doesn't have very high AC. This one does 1d4 necrotic to people that attack you with a melee attack. So it doesn't work for ranged, but it's the earliest reflection you can do. But again, the Infernal Robes are just unbeatable early game. Glove wise, we have the Gloves of Power. These gives a penalty to enemies' attack rolls and saving throws, which is nice. Probably the best gloves for this build, because this makes enemies miss you and then take a bunch of reflection damage in case they cannot hit you through your 20 million wards. Boots of Speed are nice for bonus action dash in case you need to run away from someone. And these are the Boots of Striding, which are just straight for anti-prone. If you don't know, Boots of Striding give you immunity to all knockback and all prones, as long as you're concentrating on something. But if you concentrate on something like guidance, and then you unequip the boots, you will keep the anti-knockback thing. So these boots give you insane amount of utility. You basically become immune to any shoving, pushing, or proning, like standing on ice. So having medium armor proficiency for these boots alone is really good. That's why we are a Githyanki. Amulet, unbeatable. If the Bloodmother's Revenge, 1d6 poison every time you heal, it's just unbeatable, honestly. In terms of weapons, we have three choices. I went with the Silver Sword of Rasselplane. You can get the sword in Act 1 by doing some funny glitches. I would say glitch is just an exploit. But it's just thematic. You get a lot of extra damage by being a Githyanki, but it's not like the must-use weapon. The best weapon I would say is the Morning Frost. You get this by combining all the pieces in the Underdark. This gives you 1 extra cold damage to Agathis and all your cold damage spells. But in reality, it's 2 damage because you're wetting them, so it's 2 cold damage. It also lets you shield enemies when you use a spell, which makes them vulnerable to cold. So sometimes you can just put enemies vulnerable to you without even wetting them, so it's really good. Second best option is Valor Alluve. Valor Alluve Sing adds 1d4 thunder to all your reflection sources, so Agathis will do 1d4 extra, so it's really good for that purpose. In the end game, we would when we get to Wielder, you would be holding both of these at the same time, essentially, to get the 1d4 thunder and 2 damage cold. These are our active weapons. In the Crash, we get a few upgrades. Gloves of Painful Striking are nice, because when you do damage with a weapon attack, it's basically the power gloves, but a bit stronger. You get a penalty to saving throws against your spells, so it makes your spells more likely to hit. Winter Clutches are nice, because they combine with our cold team. When you do cold damage, they become encrusted with frost. If you stack this encrusted with frost, they will have to become frozen. It's kind of hard to stack this many turns, but if you keep doing long battles, which Abjuration is pretty long, involves really long combats, you will eventually freeze them. Then we have the Diadem of Arcane Synergy. Every time you inflict a condition, which will be chilled in our case, you get Arcane Synergy, which basically gives you +2 damage. Really good headwear. If you don't care about the momentum thing anymore, which you shouldn't, because it's +2 damage. Alternative is the Holy Lance Helmet. This does 1d4 radiant damage when they miss you, which will happen a lot because we will have decent AC. But honestly, as an abjuration wizard, you want low AC, as low AC as you can. Though Father's Embrace is actually an Act 1 item, but it's very important for Act 2, so I'm going to talk about it later. But just know that this is an Act 1 item. Now, the Ring of Elemental Effusion is going to be our best in-slot ring. Every time you deal any cold, acid, fire, lightning, or thunder damage with the cantrip, you get infused on your weapon. So this basically gives you Booming Blade, Thunder infusions, or cold infusions if you use Drake Throat Glaive. So this is the best ring for basically the whole game. And then we have another option, which is the Ring of Arcane Synergy, which you can combine both if you want in Crash onwards. This one gives you +2 damage, but it's the same as the Costing Bag. This one just gives you +2 damage to all your spells, which is just good. Combine these two in the Crash. In Act 2, we get the Helmet of Arcane Acuity, which is probably the best helmet for Act 2. Every time you deal damage with a weapon attack, you gain Arcane Acuity. You can stack it. This gives you higher odds to land your spells, so basically it guarantees your spells. So it's the best slot. Before you get that, if you get Demon Rise, this one is decent too. +1 spell save DC, and 1 initiative, but I think the Arcane Acuity helmet is just better. Another option is the Cold Brim hat, which lets you apply Encrusted with Frost quicker. However, you know that this only applies it once per turn, so if you have like 2 actions or a haste potion, you cannot encrust further than 2 turns. So this plus the gloves would be basically 4 turns, and then the gloves would do 6. So you still need to wait an extra turn to even freeze them. So it's still a bit slow. And the Oak Father's Embrace is the best Act 2 armor. because undead people and beasts take 1d6 radiant damage every time they hit you. Now, a detail is that this armor, because of abjuration, they don't actually take damage unless they break through your wards, unless they do more than 20 damage essentially, which can happen. But if it doesn't happen, you don't be surprised that you don't reflect damage back. It's only there if they break through your wards, which is possible because some enemies hit pretty hard, like Malus Storm and other bosses. So when they do get past your wards, they will get punished with 1d6 like radiant. The best cloak for the rest of the game is in Act 2 too. It's called Flesh Melter. Similar to the Oak Spider's Embrace, this only reflects damage to enemies that break through your minus 20 damage. This time it's acid damage, but it's the best cloak. It's basically a reflection cloak. In terms of hand crossbows, we can upgrade with Yrgir's Hellfire and Near Mister. This one gives you a free magic missile, and this one gives you a free Scorching Ray. And they do more damage, so there's no reason not to upgrade them. Callous Glow Ring is probably the best ring. You can ditch Arcane Synergy. If you cast light on your melee weapon, you will be doing 2 radiant damage multiple times every time you cast a spell or do a melee attack. So these are your 2 best in slot rings for the rest of the game. And again, the cape also stays. Now, Punch Drunk Bastard and Drake Throat Glaive are just support items, but yeah, Punch Drunk Bastard lets you get advantage forever. There's a method that I show in my videos. If you want me to show it later, I can. And Grateful Glaive, obviously, Draconic Elemental Weapon. Infuse your weapon with Cold or Lightning. Ideally, Cold is better, but if you're fighting the Netherbrain, I would go with Lightning for variety. But that's basically all the items in Act 2. Now, Act 3, we get our final items. This is an Act 1 item, but I like to use it in Act 3 too, because it gives you a free Misty Step. Now, we are immune to all surfaces and everything because of Striding Boots, so this is just a free Misty Step. I like these boots in general. In terms of amulet, Greater Health is the best amulet. It gives you 23 Constitution, which means you just become really, really strong, even if they get past your wards, which they will, because it's Act 3, so wards become less effective. You have enough health to keep like out healing it forever. Cloak of the Weave is our best in slot cloak in Act 3, because this one again falls off a bit because it's only 1d4 if they get past you, and it's acid damage, so it's not that good. But this cloak gives you a +1 spell save DC and spell attack rolls, so it's really good. The second feature is quite cool, but it doesn't work. It's completely bugged. And then, in terms of helmets, we have the Helm of Valderan, which gives us anti-crit, anti-stun, and it will combo with Orc Gloves, so it gives you infinite healing of 2 hit points per turn. If you combine it with the Reviving Hands, you will now have perma heal every turn, and the Reviving Hands, every time you get healed, you get Blade Ward. So these gloves and this helmet are perfect, because the helmet heals you, and then you get Blade Ward every turn. And if you don't know, Blade Ward gives you resistance to all physical damage types. So you basically become resistant to all of these forever if you combine these 2. So it's really strong, on top of all your elemental resistances from other things. Armor-wise, we have the Bone Spike Garb. This armor gives you 15 temporary points from your rage, which is not relevant, but it gives you -2 damage, which is really good. So you have -22 damage now. And then every time someone hits you, and this one works through the wards, so you just have to hit you. They don't have to do damage to you. You do piercing damage based on your Constitution modifier, which is quite high because of the amulet. So this time we're doing 6 piercing damage on top of all the cold damage you're doing. In terms of weapons, we get the Marco Heshkir. This is the best stuff in the game. It gives you Arcane Battery, which lets you use any spells without a spell slot. and obviously Kareshka's Favor. In the end game, we would be combining this with Valor Aloof for the buffs, and obviously you'd be using Kareshka's Favor Cold.
I'll fill that one later.
Kareshka's Favor is cold, gives you additional cold damage to your proficiency bonus, resistance to cold damage, and you inflict frost every time you do spell damage. And it also gives you a free cast of Tone of Cold and Ice Storm. Sadly, it doesn't work with Agathis, but it does work with Fire Shield Cold, so it's really insane. Another alternative is Rhapsody, which gives you +3 spell save DC, +3 attack rolls. That's it. Honestly, nothing else to talk about. Yeah, in terms of combat, you would first build your stacks, your wars, which I did with Halson here. We have 1,500. Sorry, we would cast Agathis, get our 3 or more wards, then multiply them with Chromatic Orb. Then before combat, we would cast Fire Shield Chill, plus our Enhanced Leap and Featherfall to have some movement. And then after that, we would use Valor Aloof. We would use Valor Aloof Shriek, which gives you a range of where all enemies will take extra 1d4, so this applies to a reflection. And then you would start wetting enemies with your offhand attack crossbow or with your spells, plus your quicken spell, so up to you. That's our main gameplay loop. If you want to check it out, check out my other videos about it, but this is just the build guide of showing you what items you can use and what's your progression like. Obviously, I forgot to talk about it, but 2 elixirs you want to use are the Gloghill Giant Strength. If you're going for melee booming blades, use this. If you're going for spells, instead go for the Battle Mage Power, which gives you a higher odds to land your spells. But yeah, I think that covers all the items, honestly. If you have any questions, just ask me in the comments, it's fine. I'll answer them, no problem. And thank you for watching.